More asylum seekers look to Canada. Chinese billionaire wants to buy Hudson Bay, and the government a bad landlord, and so much on election 2025 today. I'm Jim Check with the Now Media Group. With me on the phone, Ian Burns, our managing editor, all the way in the nation's capital. Beautiful day here in the Okanagan, though. Look at that sunshine and traffic moving nicely. How is it looking out there in the nation's capital? Do we have Ian?
Sky because it's
There.
nice and blue.
Nice and blue. You got blue sky? Nice. There you
Nice
go.
and blue, but it is also the coldest April 9th, apparently, in the history of Ottawa today, -13. So make of that what you will. It's a bluebird day, I guess.
Minus 13. It isn't not. It is not minus 13 here. I think it's probably like plus 13.
Yeah, that's why you have the sunshine tax. But we also have sunshine here, just not warmth.
And you also have sunshine tax.
Different kind, I guess.
You have iceberg tax. How's that?
Yeah. Salt rusting your car tax.
So Canada adds more retaliatory tariffs as the Trump's trade war hits the world. I mean, it's on full on, especially China and the United States. They are definitely
Yeah,
amping it up.
this is an interesting one because it's kind of like, for some reason, Canada's now discovered that it also has a free trade deal with Mexico. And that's, I think, the most interesting part of these retaliatory tariffs, because Mexican-made cars are legit. They're fine. They can come in tariff free. But obviously, we have a very weird relationship with Mexico, don't we? Where we're in this deal with the Mexicans, but we don't really have much commerce between us, and there's no love, particularly, is there, between the Canadians and the Mexicans.
Well, I mean, we
So I find
insulted
that quite interesting.
the liberals insulted them just recently. Remember when they said that they lack culture in that, and then there's a few barbs that went back and forth between the Trudeau liberals and the Mexican president there.
And Mr. Canada, don't forget, Doug Ford, straight away when this all kicked off, he went and did a press conference and he was like, "It's Mexico." It's like straight away trying to throw Mexico under the bus. But yeah, I mean this is a sideshow really, though. I mean, this could it seems to me this is likely to increase the price of cars pretty seriously in Canada. But we'll have to wait and see about that. But I mean, the big stories there is obviously it's all about China, and it's this kind of they now in effect have reciprocal import taxes on each other's goods that are around about 100%. So they're playing chicken with each other, and they're ending their commercial relationship, it seems.
Yeah, no, it's gotten really bad. Even China has reached out and said to the companies that do work in China and say you better talk to your boss. And so they've even put pressure on some of the manufacturers or people in the American companies in China. The other thing is on Fox, there was a graph they put up that showed like 20 countries trying to work with Trump on tariffs, and then 20 that have already done deals, and then China and Canada is listed as the ones that are in this retaliatory war so far. That's the only two listed is in doing retaliation so far. And then Europe is like looking at options. So that was an interesting graph up there that was put up by Fox News.
Yeah, it's Canada's come out all guns blazing, but I think I mean, we've done this to death, haven't we, in on previous conversations, but it's unique in the relationship between Canada and the US is unique for so many reasons. And there's really no closer relationship. I think when politicians talk about a sense of betrayal and heartbreak, and almost like scorned lovers, aren't they? And
Yeah.
that's right, I think, because the US-Canada relationship, like Doug Ford has said a number of times, it really is like family, isn't it? And so it's a spectacular and painful betrayal that
Yeah.
is on a different level to America's relationship with any other country. And then on top of that, Trump has said that he wants to annex Canada. So I mean,
Yeah.
he was always going to get a reaction from the Canadians, whether that's wise or not from the consumer's perspective and from the macroeconomic perspective. That's another question.
That rhetoric has seemed to die down, when he's calling him Governor Trudeau and stuff like that. He hasn't been doing that. But and also, we have to, on top of all that, we have to factor in that the Liberals have heightened this because it actually is working to their advantage.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Carney's very proud of himself, isn't he? And certainly his surrogates in the media are coming out and saying you're not hearing any more of these insults from Donald Trump, are you? And that is after they had a phone call with each other, which is true. It is. It is after they had that phone call. So, I mean, Carney now, you're right, they're leaning into this attack by the Americans, but they're also simultaneously saying, and look how much better treatment we're getting as well because of me, because of King
Yeah.
Carney.
And
So it's an interesting dynamic they've got going.
I think it's more so that Trump had some serious issues with Justin Trudeau from his disrespect all those times, and that they used Trump's name as a slur so many times. I'm not saying that it wasn't deserved, but definitely that Trudeau had and Trump did not have any kind of like for each other.
I think, yeah, Trump despised Justin Trudeau for so many reasons, including personal reasons. I think Trudeau kind of embarrassed him a little bit, if you remember that very aggressive handshake
Yeah.
where Trudeau went in like a little gremlin and like yanked his hand off. Then there was also a lot of noise made about the time that Melania Trump, his wife, seemed to be very enthusiastic in her greeting of Justin Trudeau on one occasion and sort of kissed Justin Trudeau. A lot like we know that Trump is absolutely obsessed with the media, and that did get some play on the media. So I wouldn't be surprised if that played into it. But also, I mean, Justin Trudeau was he was part of that liberal, post financial crash, 2010s sort of liberal establishment that included Barack Obama and Angela Merkel and some other people. And I think Trudeau was kind of like the last man standing, wasn't he, from that old team? And I feel like Trump relished the opportunity to knock him down.
Yeah, and we said this was going to happen. There's a rise in asylum seekers in Canada's migrants protected status is set to expire in the U.S. And we were pretty sure that this was going to happen as people, the mass deportation plan that Donald Trump had in place, that they would likely flee to the north, and that is exactly what is happening.
Yeah, and this latest group of migrants that this story is about here, this is specifically about a border crossing in Quebec, near Montreal, and this is about Haitian migrants. Obviously, the language of the Haitian people is French, so I mean, I suppose they also have pull as well as push, don't they, to go to Quebec. But we know as well. I mean, when you were chatting to Dave Eby, Dave, I should give him his proper nickname there. When you were chatting to Dave, he was saying how infuriated he was about the prospect that, migrants were going to be sent from Quebec to BC because he says that BC can't handle the people coming in. And that was a liberal policy, lest we forget. Mark Miller warning that he would kind of send them on buses to the rest of Canada. So while this particular story is about Quebec, I mean, it does affect every other province as well.
Yeah, a British woman attacked as dangerous for claiming to be the first female solo crossing of Baffin Island.
I mean, this is just a completely surreal news story, which I would encourage everybody with 5 minutes to have a read of this and then do some research afterwards. I mean, for one thing, this woman calls herself an adventurer. This is kind of this is hilarious to me. There are lots of like rich posh people in England who don't know what to do with their lives. They've got too much money and too much time on their hands, and they do silly things like this, and they call themselves explorers and adventurers or whatever. Just absurd time wasters. And these are often the people that like sail around the world, and they do like they sail across the Pacific on a rowing boat and stuff like that. They just do these stupid things all the time. I think it's kind of since the British Empire was taken away from them, this is what they have to do to get out of their system. But yeah, she's gone across Baffin Island solo, which is pretty nuts, isn't it? And then Parks Canada told her that there is no record, or they don't have any record of a woman that's ever done that by herself. So then she came out naturally to promote herself and said, "Look, I'm the first woman that's ever done this." And then some Inuit people have now, I mean, I don't know how many, but there's one in that story that's come out and said all that. This is like Western colonialism, this is dangerous, this is craziness, and all the rest of it. And then proceeded to talk about her sort of ancestors that crossed Baffin Island. But at no point, I have to add, I don't know who I think I am injecting rationality to this dispute, but At no point did she mention a woman that did it by herself. She talked about teams of people that did it. So it seems like it might actually be true. She might be the first person. But I would also say there's so much argument in here. There's so much like racially tinged ethnic strife built into this article and this story where it's like, we're indigenous, you're the invader, that kind of language.
I
And
think
I
I
just
can.
find it ironic.
Yeah.
I
I
just no,
think.
I just find it ironic. I would just have to say the Inuit are not the first people to inhabit Baffin Island. It was a different people. It was the Dorset culture who were displaced by the Inuit about 800 years ago. And there is quite a lot of evidence to suggest that Europeans, the Norse, actually arrived on Baffin Island, visited Baffin Island before the Inuit ever did. And I just find you just inject a tiny little bit of like knowledge and facts into these disputes, and it just exposes the absurdity of this whole argument, which is in effect this group of people claiming that this woman almost like has no right to even be there. It's kind of, especially when it's expressed along the lines of Western colonialism and all the rest of it. The Inuit, their ancestors, the Thule people, displaced the Dorset culture on Baffin Island. It's not like they grew up out of the ground of Baffin Island and have always been there for a million years or something. It's just the same old argument that doesn't really have any relationship with truth.
I think I can fix the whole argument. She just needs to change her headline there and say, "Silly social media narcissist crosses Baffin Island because she has nothing else to do."
And then sort of a group of people say that she almost doesn't belong there and don't know anything about history.
So just a silly girl with nothing to do, looking for some social media likes, crosses Baffin Island, and then looks to get some applause or notice or whatever. There you go.
Well, she's got that now, hasn't she?
She has. She's famous. This is a bigger story for sure. Hudson Bay, older than Canada, way older than Canada. One of Canada's first, or one of our nation's first commercial operations here with the Hudson Bay Fur Trading Company. Declared bankruptcy. Most of the stores being sold. There's some left that will be operated. Some of them, they're like flagship stores. But a Chinese billionaire in British Columbia has taken to social media, of course, why not social media again, to announce her plans to buy dozens of Hudson Bay locations after she saw Canadians feeling sad. Entrepreneur, I'm going to get this wrong, Wei-Hon Liu, the board of chairwoman of Central Walk, a retail investment company that owns about 3 shopping centers in BC. She said on social media that she wants to restore the Bay to its glory. There you go.
Kind of relevant to say what social media platform she said that on Red Note, a Chinese one, and she said it in Mandarin.
Yeah,
I find that very, very peculiar.
Again, the Chinese have bought a lot of stuff here in Canada for sure, and she's looking to buy a bunch of locations. But why not just go to Hudson Bay and ask them instead of going to social media? Again, another person needing a lot of attention, I imagine.
Indeed, and this is something that there's a certain like specimen of business person that just does this all the time. I mean, I don't know if that includes her. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe she's for real. But there are so many people that just they see a big name like Hudson's Bay, or whatever it is, and they make a lot of noise about it and get an awful lot of attention, and then nothing ever happens.
Why not just do what most businesses do, make an offer? Would make more sense.
Yeah, do it quietly or have some meetings.
To the Hudson Bay Company itself. Canada, this is a Holly Doan Blacklock story. Another claim to fame for Canada. It's worse than New Zealand in as far as being a landlord of its own properties. It's such a poor landlord at rates worse than New Zealand with a population of 5 million in managing federal buildings for taxpayer savings, said a Treasury Board report. Managers spend like $10 billion a year without proper oversight. Who would have thought, eh?
Yeah, the money faucet just keeps on pouring out there. There's a scandal here in Ottawa as well, which most people in the rest of Canada don't know anything about, which is about the federal government refusing to pay the taxes that it owes to the city of Ottawa, like the municipality, because obviously in Ottawa there's a huge number of government buildings, and they have this agreement which goes back a long time, which isn't really much of an agreement. It's like a declaration that they will pay the tax rate that they feel like paying, whatever that is. And so the city of Ottawa now is just almost every day the mayor of Ottawa has like a meltdown. So not only are they wasting money, they're also shortchanging the good people of Ottawa.
Yeah, this report follows a similar 2021 audit that rated the Government of Canada poor landlords. The Government of Canada's real property portfolio is aging, has deferred maintenance costs, and are increasing. The condition of functionality of the assets are declining at an accelerating rate. There you go. It said federal managers deferred about $20 million of basic maintenance, and we're expected to grow by approximately $2 billion a year. The status quo is no longer an option. And you know, that's the thing. And I think Pierre Poilievre put out there they were going to sell off some of these federal buildings. So I would imagine a lot of them are probably empty as well because of people are working from home. Federal government employees still have a work-to-home portion of their things. 16% of the federal buildings were rated in poor condition. 2% were rated critical. The average age of the Crown-owned assets is 49 years old. Research shows there are definitive points in the life cycle of building when the assets, base systems, envelope, and interior space begin to require considerable interventions. There you go.
Well, I mean, we're going through a gigantic property boom. It is definitely an interesting point, isn't it? If you can't afford to put the money in to maintain your buildings, then sell them and you'll get a lot of capital and you can do something good with that money.
Yeah, I mean, and use it for building out other services that everybody can benefit from. They have all these federal buildings, and you know, like you could turn them into rental properties. You could turn them into a whole bunch of things, strata units, and sell them, and ease some of the housing pressure here in Canada. I think Pierre Poilievre pitched that idea a while back, and then Trudeau said that they would look at leasing some of the buildings out instead of selling them, right? Anyway.
Yeah, the Liberals have expressed a certain amount of interest. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, the federal government has some glorious buildings, doesn't it? And land in general. I mean, anybody that's ever been to London will know that Canada House is like you couldn't possibly have a better location in London. They have and that's like the consular building. That's where you get your visas and stuff like that. And that's where Mark Carney went actually recently when he went to London. He visited Canada House. It's like right in it's right next to sort of Nelson's Column and Trafalgar Square and the National Gallery, just down the road from Downing Street. That building alone must be worth like just an unfathomable sum of money. So if the federal government was serious about real estate, it could raise like so much money. Like I think it would shock people how much they could actually raise.
This clip is going viral on the internet, and this is an emotional one for. We're going to play it, and then we'll talk about it.
She was murdered in this community. IPV is important to this community. We have been affected. This is my best friend. She was murdered.
This is my sister.
This is her. She was murdered in this community a year and a half ago by her partner, and she loved you, and she was murdered in front of her 12-year-old daughter in her house, along with 3 children, and we need change.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah, this is our best friend, sister, and she believed in you, we believe in you, but we need change for
Our
this.
families are going through hell.
Right? So it's so important to us. I know you talked about it Friday in Quebec, and it's just such a huge mission of ours. Like, we are advocating for her. We started a nonprofit in her memory, and we're just trying to do everything we can because this community will never be the same from the events that happened on October 23rd, 2023. So it's just means everything for us.
Thank you for starting the change.
Thank you so much, guys.
Appreciate it.
You can go find that video online and watch the full thing. Very emotional, very tough to watch. And why it's relevant is we got this other. Here's a tweet from Global BC, and I imagine a lot of people have seen this already, where this guy rammed his car through the garage of this house and then came into the house, and then luckily the homeowner was able to subdue the guy while the guy was screaming that he was going to kill them. I don't know if you've seen this one, Ian, but he's already been released on bail. Are you there, Ian?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I thought we were gonna have it.
No, I thought everybody had saw it. So this guy rammed his car into the garage, and that's how he broke into the home, and then got into the home, and then the wife called 911. Well, the homeowner wrestled the guy to the ground. The guy had a chain and said he was going to kill him. And it was pretty scary. And luckily, he was able to subdue him until the police arrived. And he's already out on bail.
Terrible. Yeah, well, it's, I mean, in a Kelowna context, that's not, there's been many examples of that kind of thing, haven't there? It's not, I don't think it surprises anybody now, unfortunately. It's become a fact of life in Canada that it's very, very, very difficult to get yourself remanded in custody to actually be held. Bail is like the easiest thing to obtain. And it's even written into the law that if you are not white, essentially, if your skin color is not white, or if you tell people that your skin isn't white, the police will write that down on a piece of paper, put it in the computer, and then a judge is legally obligated to give you more lenient treatment and to bail you. I mean, that's the kind of insane legal system that we must suffer in this country.
Yeah, no, and crime in Canada has taken over some of the stats from the United States. I think we're number one, especially in per capita for murder and different things. It's gotten real out of hand here in Canada.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that it's not just the dysfunctional judicial system. I'm sure there are more reasons for it than that, but it certainly doesn't help, does it, when even if the police catch a criminal or a suspected criminal, that's not necessarily a guarantee of the public safety, because the judicial system might not do what the people would expect it to do.
Yeah, I think Poilievre introduced that 3 strikes you're out. I'm just trying to find it here. That was a press release, I think, yesterday or today. But I don't have it in front of me, so maybe we'll come back to it. An opinion column from the Winnipeg Sun, and we've been saying this for a long time. Canada's media is failing you and protecting the Liberals. We've been saying this for a while, and the reason being is that their jobs depend on it. They're getting funded. We get zero funding, by the way. They're getting funded, and the Conservative leader says he's going to take the funding away. So a lot of the media outlets definitely are worried that they're going to lose their funding that they've been heavily relying on, because also Bill C-18 is taking away half their traffic and half their revenue, like us. And so they've been relying on this funding. The Liberal government has put us at a place where it's very hard to operate as a media company because of Bill C-18.
Yep. In effect, they're on a leash, aren't they? Because they're dependent on the government's actions have resulted in one of their main sources of traffic and therefore revenue being removed. And when that happened, as well as during COVID, when revenues declined and there was a lot of uncertainty, the federal government, in its words, stepped in to rescue government. But that sort of filled up a bit of the gap in revenue. But now it's got to the point where they're dependent on that. So it's kind of like government actions have made the media landscape pretty ramshackle and desperate. And then the government has come in and said, okay, we'll prop you up with subsidies. And now, you know, that we have a lot of media outlets and journalists who are in effect compromised. Whether they would phrase it that way or look at it that way, I don't know, but that is the reality. They are dependent upon not just the government, that's one thing. They're dependent upon the Liberal Party, and they're dependent upon the Liberal Party being the government for the continuation of their taxpayer subsidies. That is quite obviously just pure poison for a democracy, really. It's a tragedy, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Holly Jones of Blacklocks has said that basically the mainstream media has become an arm of the government, an arm of the Liberal government. And they have us kind of like, they have us, our own media outlet, they have their knee in our throat, and they've taken away half our traffic and half of our revenue with no compensation. And the other outlets that get compensation, obviously, are more than willing to do their bidding because they see it as their survival. Whereas we're willing to say whatever we want to say. They need to repeal Bill C-18. Mark Carney talks about increasing the funding for the CBC. No mention of repealing Bill C-18.
Yeah, and I mean it's worth stressing as well that the Liberal Party here it's pushing against an open door anyway. The press in Canada, it's very much a white collar profession these days. Didn't used to be, but nowadays it's very much like a middle upper class sort of job, beloved of urban snobs. And if you've been paying attention to this election, you'll see that Pierre Poilievre does not even attempt to appeal to that sort of class of people. He likes to surround himself with people wearing hard hats in factories and stuff like that. Like that's who he sees as his base, not the sort of urban clerical class. And
Yeah.
that's who the journalists are. So journalists already aren't exactly just as people in their personal lives. They're not really attracted to the Conservative Party anyway. They're much more likely to be liberals. So it's a combination of that, and then also this kind of subsidy that's been dangled in front of them. It's quite obvious that they're going to struggle to remain neutral in a situation like that.
And making it worse, the Liberal government selectively decides who they're going to fund, and Bill C-18 cripples all media at the same time. And we've had letters of support, even from actually a former Liberal MP, the one that's running here, Stephen Fuhr, saying that Kelowna Now is a media outlet that should be recognized and has been serving this community. But by selectively deciding who is media, who is not media, and deciding also the Liberal government and the Liberal, even this campaign, deciding who can attend media events and ask questions is also not great for democracy.
No, indeed. And I think people maybe have no idea about this, do they, in general? I don't think this is filtered through to the sort of general public, but I feel like it will. It will eventually. The levee will break eventually, and people will become aware of this this very unpleasant situation.
Well, let's get into the election 2025. I've got a clip here to play from Pierre Poilievre to kick things off.
To scrap C-69 and fast-track energy projects. How do you balance out the Indigenous land rights and environmental review processes, especially in light of the recent court rulings on Indigenous consultation?
Yes, you're a very good question. After the lost Liberal decade, Indigenous rights have been trampled by this Liberal government. Liberals blocked the Northern Gateway pipeline with Mark Carney's vocal, on-the-record opposition to that pipeline, even though 80% of First Nations people along the path supported the pipeline. They killed the Tech Frontier mine, even though all 20 First Nations communities around the mine were 100% in favor of it. And the Liberals are keeping our First Nations people in poverty by blocking the resource projects that their communities support. And we interpret Section 35 of the Constitution to go both ways, that we have to consult First Nations who are opposed to projects, but we have an obligation to consult also those that are in favor of them. The Liberals did not consult one First Nations community when they killed the Northern Gateway pipeline. And the result is that the 500,000 barrels of oil that we could have been sending to Asia at world prices every day are now going to the Americans at enormous price discounts. And make no mistake, it's the same Liberal MPs, same Liberal ministers, same Liberal strategists with the same Liberal policy. And Mark Carney testified against the Northern Gateway pipeline. So let's not, because he has a banker's haircut and he wears a normal pair of navy blue socks, don't think his position on these issues is any different than Trudeau. He supports C-69, which means there will not be another pipeline or LNG plant ever built again in this country. He supports the energy cap, which applies to Canadian energy but not American energy. He supports an industrial carbon tax, which will make major projects impossible to go ahead. So electing the Liberals to a fourth term will mean higher costs and crime and a falling economy under the American thumb. What we need is a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, greenlight home building, pipelines, resources, so that we can stand up to the Americans from a position of strength for a change.
And we'll play Mark Carney's response. They asked a similar question on Bill C-69.
At your rally, you said Pierre Poilievre's plan is to, quote, divide and be conquered. As of now, Canada is reliant on the U.S. to get our own oil from one side of the country to the other. By not repealing Bill C-69 and allowing Quebec to veto a pipeline across Canada, are you not yourself setting up Canada to be divided and conquered?
Absolutely not. In fact, in the premise of your question, you answer it, which is if we are going to build, and I am a proponent of building big energy infrastructure in this country, but if we are going to build big energy infrastructure in this country, there is a we in that. It is not imposed. It is not imposed by the federal government. It's not imposed by an opposition politician. It's not imposed by a company. It requires the support of, in the example you gave, in Energy East of Quebec, the other provinces that are affected. It requires the support, the free, prior, and informed consent of First Nations. So that's the exact opposite, which is that coming together to build. Now, what I've proposed, both at the First Minister's level and more broadly, is that we as a country use this crisis to identify those projects of national interest, many of which, not all of which, but many of which are energy infrastructure projects, so that we can get those agreements, so that we can come together and we can accelerate. And last point, with respect to C-69, what I've also been clear about is the ability under C-69, not as it was, but as it is, and the Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Wilkinson, is here, as it is under his leadership. We have an ability to rely on, as appropriate, impact assessments that are performed at different levels of government. And that is part and parcel of how we can make this work. So I reject the question, but I hope I've provided some illumination. Thank you.
Well, I thought he must have went to Kamala Harris's school of word salad there to get that answer. I don't get what he said. I mean, I remember some of Kamala Harris's responses, like, as it is, as it was, it could be as it was, is. What?
He is rather circumlocutory, isn't he? That's the
You know what I mean?
think
Like,
that's the technical term for his
did
way
you
of
get an
speaking.
answer? Was it clear to you? Like he said, let's, so that I'm clear. I'm just like, what part in there was clear? As it was, as it is, as it was. Like what?
The main bit of fact, or the main bit of substance in that, I think, was that he kind of implied that Justin Trudeau and the previous energy ministers or minister hadn't really tried to develop energy projects, and as a consequence, it was blamed on that bill C-69. And he's kind of saying that with me as the kingpin and Wilkinson behind me at the fore, we will get through and we'll be able to operate even with that bill in place. That seems to be what he was saying, but he really doesn't. He does not articulate himself well at
What?
all, does he? He really struggles to speak English, I think.
Well, I think when you're trying to beat around the bush, because I've heard other Liberals say now too, say that the Energy East that they're talking about is an electric Energy East pipeline. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not a LNG pipeline, because they won't say the words. They won't say the words oil and gas and LNG. Like I've watched this over and over again. Carney does not say oil and gas or LNG when he talks about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he says conventional, doesn't he? That's his preferred term.
Yeah, and then all, like, it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, the clear answer that Canadians want to hear is we're going to repeal Bill 69, Bill C-69, and we're going to build a pipeline, the Northern Gateway pipeline, and we're going to build the pipeline, the Energy East pipeline, to get our oil and gas and our LNG to our coastal ports. That's it. That's the sentence. I bet you if you ask them to say those sentences, just say it, because reporters are very strong on when they want, like, especially in the U.S. when they want somebody to say something, just ask them to say it. Say that. Just repeat that sentence. I doubt if you're going to get an answer.
Well, he's trying to walk the tightrope, isn't he? Because he relies on Quebec and he relies on left-leaning people, lots of disaffected NDP voters, even Green voters. He's relying on that coalition to back him in this election. So he doesn't want to say that because he doesn't want to lose their vote. But then at the same time, he is well aware that there's probably, if the polls are to be believed, a majority in Canada that want these projects to go ahead and find it baffling that the Trudeau government seem to be not very interested in getting them over the line, except for TMX.
You could make
he's trying to do both things at once, isn't he? And that's why he ends up struggling to speak English.
You could do a whole montage on all his when he answers reporters on his and then he gets really quick right at the end and hope that answers your question. It's like, absolutely not.
Well, yeah, on top of that as well, you have the arrogance and pretentiousness where he's like, I reject the premise of your question. And then he goes on to speak some sort of strange language. He uses English words, but he's not speaking English. And then he says, I hope that provided some illumination. It's like, shut up.
I believe the Democrats and the Liberals must go to the same school of word salad so that they can just say a bunch of words that mean nothing, because it's very common between both of those parties. This, like,
indeed,
speak to the common man or woman, speak to them in common language. Is it a yes or a no? Not as it is, as it was, as the possibilities of the future as it is and as it was, could be this as it was. What?
I mean, generally speaking, I think the left, if you want to call it the left, whatever, the liberal side of things, they tend to deal more in the abstract, don't they? Abstract ideas and abstract terms and concepts and whatnot. Whereas the right nowadays, or the populists, whatever you want to call them, they're more about the meat and potatoes of it. And that is reflected in the language. It doesn't necessarily, I suppose, to play devil's advocate here, it doesn't necessarily mean one is superior to the other. But, you know, as an admirer of George Orwell and clear English and plain speaking and good communication, I have to say that I find it exceedingly demoralizing to have to listen to Mark Carney speak like that. It's infuriating, actually.
You're asking for our vote, and at the same time, you won't answer a question clearly, even though you say the word clearly and illuminating in your sentences. There is nothing in there that is clear.
He also absolutely loves rejecting the premise of your question. He absolutely loves that little phrase. When he gets asked a question that he doesn't like, it's right off the bat, it's, I don't agree with your premise. It's, yeah, whatever. That's his style, isn't it? That's.
I think he also said in that one is that the answer to your question is in your question. I'm just like, no, it's not. It's absolutely not.
Well, I mean, it's. What can we say? How can we maintain our neutrality here? I would say Jagmeet Singh often comes out with gobbledygook of a different kind, where he says pretty simplistic things about the workers, the CEOs, the billionaires, and all that, but it doesn't really make any sense when you add it all up together. And then I would say for Mr. Poilievre, he does speak a lot more clearly in general, and he uses shorter words because that's obviously his style. I think he's cultivated that style, and it's very intentional. But he does also sometimes disappear into holes of obscurity when he's talking about things, for example, like how much he wants to keep supply management alive and that kind of thing. Obviously, he doesn't. He absolutely doesn't. If he's consistent in any way with the rest of his economic philosophy, he will despise supply management. But he still says that he likes it anyway because he wants to get votes in Quebec. So he kind of struggles when he's obviously being deceptive. He struggles as well. So, you know, politicians struggle, don't they? They have a hard life.
Some will disagree with you. Jagmeet Singh, you talk about Jagmeet Singh. That's our next pitch here. Jagmeet Singh says that he wants to ban foreign buyers from buying homes in Canada and promised an NDP government would close loopholes in existing rules by barring numbered companies and corporate proxies from purchasing homes. This would really go against Brookfield Asset Management and companies like BlackRock and Vanguard that buy up tons and tons of residential properties and want to make, they sell you and they want to make renters out of everybody. So,
Yeah, I mean, that is like a wide open goal for the NDP, really, isn't it? The whole Brookfield thing. Considering that, I don't think I'm being quite serious here. I don't think I've ever listened to a speech from Jagmeet Singh where he has not used the word billionaire. And I'm not exaggerating in the least. He will literally say that every single time a camera's pointed at him. So this is perfect for him, isn't it? It's perfect for the NDP. And I feel like in a way, like their entire campaign should kind of hedge on this.
and this one goes too far, though. It says the NDP is also pitching a measure to prevent house flipping. The party says it wants to tax as income profits from sale of homes sold within 5 years of the sale of purchasing it. We already have that in BC, where I think it's 2 years. Well, what happens if there's a divorce or whatever? You have to sell the home, or your job moves and stuff like that. Like these kind of rules. I mean, most people aren't flipping homes within a couple of years because they're looking for profits. They're looking because they had to move somewhere, or there's a breakdown in a relationship or something. So these kind of like just hard and fast rules, it's basically taking away people's willingness to even buy a property.
Yeah, it's kind of sometimes laws they almost try and legislate against human nature, and when you're working against human nature, you're working against people and what people instinctively do. It's not really going to work, is it? I mean, just in a practical sense. So that's what I would say. Like, is this actually practical?
Like going against corporations buying homes, sure, that's a problem, right? Deal with that, right? But one of our viewers there says that in a divorce, she gets the house. Well, not always. What if they both have to move? Well, like there's lots of things when people have to move. RCMP have to move. They have to sell their homes. So do like people in the military and that when they don't even have a choice in the matter. Just like you're now moving. Pierre Poilievre though goes after the billionaires in this one. This is usually was a conservative platform. This is what he's saying, that he would require Canada Revenue Agency to publicly identify corporations that pay little or no federal tax. There you go. He says he's going after companies like Brookfield Asset Management that went and remember that we've shown that many times. It's a little bike shop thing where they've got it running a $5 billion company or something. It makes no sense, does it?
Well, the big people can do whatever they want, really, can't they? And we little people must suffer it.
Yeah, Bermuda has no capital gains tax, no dividend tax, no withholding tax, making it one of the world's most notorious tax havens. In fact, Mark Carney's company has been called Canada's biggest tax dodger. And that is in a 2023 report, Brookfield's Bermuda base is Canada's largest alternative asset manager dodging global taxes. There you go. And that was written by a UK Labour think tank.
I mean, there are many examples of this. Many companies do this. Like a lot of the American companies. I mean, that's what the digital services tax and all that sort of malarkey, that's what that's kind of about as well. These American companies that suck out huge amounts of money out of the Canadian economy, and then they just don't pay really any tax. They just register themselves in somewhere like Ireland, some other tax haven, and they just suck all that money out and don't pay taxes. And then when the countries complain, Canada being one of them, when they say, this is not fair, this is not right, then somebody like Donald Trump will go to bat for these massive American companies.
Yeah, so here's the thing. In-house Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, studies have documented long-standing complaints that auditors disproportionately target small businesses because it's easier. They calculate the agency recovered an average of $5.90 for every dollar spent on GST audits, compared to an average return of $4.90 on income tax audits. More complex cases can take years, and many lawyers, you know what I mean? When you're going after Brookfield Asset Management, they have tons of accountants, tons of lawyers that work in there. Not as easy as squeezing the small guy, right? So that's one of the reasons they kind of leave it alone, because they're just like, it's way too complex for this, the CRA auditor to go after them. They don't have, even the capabilities to go after these large companies, but it's easy to go after the small guy that doesn't know much, right?
Yeah, well, the example here at the bottom of the story that's given is a student that moves to get a job and claims moving expenses.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy one to audit, isn't it?
Yeah, so you go out and you squeeze that rock and you get something. But you look at Brookfield Asset Management that's tax dodged over $5 billion, and then all of a sudden just like, well, that would take years to do. and really stressful for everybody, and you don't even know if we have the knowledge, and it's all challenging. So they rely on that.
And they'd also have to go head to head with their entire legal team, and then there'll be a question about like staff and their accountants as well. It's like, do we actually have the staff? Do we have the numbers to match this beast that can it can run circles around us?
And the other thing is, in those departments, people get promoted and they move to different departments in different areas, and some of these cases can take years and years to do. And then so like there's no continuity of staff. It's really, really hard. And these corporations, Brookfield Asset Management, knows that. They absolutely know that. And then they appeal it.
And in many cases, they will hire people literally right out of the CRA, or people who are like who commanded the CRA. They'll bring in ministers and stuff like that, and they'll make sure that their road is beautifully paved so that they don't have to have any obstacles.
So it's really easy to go after that student and his moving expenses, because that's, like the guy has no knowledge, no nothing, and you just can basically just make him squirm and squeal and get, like the few shekels you need to get out of him, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a Thucydides quote, isn't it? Like the weak will suffer what they must. It's kind of like, and the strong will do as they will. That's kind of that was written like 2,500 years ago or something like that, but it's still basically true. And the same applies in the judicial system as well. If you're absolutely wadded and you've got a team of like 500 lawyers that can mount a defense for you, like there's a much lower chance that you're going to be prosecuted or convicted. It's just, sadly, that's the reality. We fool ourselves that we don't live in a society like that, but unfortunately we do.
Mark Carney likes the 1981 tax credit. And this is another Holly Dome Blacklock story. He proposed to reintroduce the tax shelter for property speculators that was abandoned 44 years ago as costly and inefficient. He gave no reason to really resurrect this thing. And that incentive costs the taxpayer about $11,000 for every apartment built. Carney says we will bring back the multiple unit residential building tax credit incentive when it was introduced in 1970, spurring tens of thousands of units being built. And again, the main beneficiaries of these MURBs, they call them, provision from the supply side of the market, has been developers, promoters, and investors with high marginal tax rates. There you go.
I wonder if that would include any of his friends. He wouldn't possibly know anybody of that kind, would he?
This is a great tax incentive for Mr. Potter.
Yeah, not so much for Jimmy Stewart and company.
Great for renters, right? Like, you know what I mean? More rentals and more for you to buy, right? There you go. Or to rent. Yeah. And then it costs the taxpayer. Yeah. Not a great program for the average Canadian. Great program for developers, promoters, and investors. Companies like Brookfield Asset Management. Another reason.
I feel like if he's not careful, Carney, once the sugar rush wears off among liberals and left-leaning people, he's at risk of being sort of typecast as like monopoly man sort of thing, isn't he? Because he is really leaning into a lot of these laws, and they do seem to favor the huge companies and big investors.
Another reason for disclosure. And we haven't heard
well, conservatives have been talking about that, haven't they, this morning?
We haven't talked a lot about the Green Party because they've been kind of, I think all the Liberals have been trying to convince everybody to not vote for Green, not vote for NDP, to consolidate their votes for the Liberals. And we even had somebody on here, Kay Desjardins, a former NDP candidate, that says you need to put your vote into the Liberals. And then the Greens have just come out and said the election's too rough. And this is another Holly Dome Blacklock story. So the Green Party yesterday claimed unnamed political rivals were frightening its canvassers and what the national campaign says, unprecedented wave of incivility. The party didn't name names, no police were called. In over 15 years of experience mobilizing candidates and working with volunteers, I've never experienced anything like it, said Robin Marty of the Green Party manager. Volunteers in tears, getting hurled abuse. Others saying they would never volunteer again. This is very concerning. They didn't name the riding. The party proposed Elections Canada investigate the harassment and intimidation throughout Canada and offer solutions on how to stop it. There you go. Who do you think it is that's doing this?
I couldn't possibly say. Who would it be?
Who would be doing this? Who would be screaming at other people that it's so important to vote for one party? Who would it be? Just a guess. And they didn't name it. That's another clue there, right? They didn't name who it is. Because if it was the Conservatives, they surely would be trotting that name out there.
Yeah, but I mean, we couldn't possibly
Yeah,
say.
we're
Maybe it was the
speculating there
Conservatives.
for sure. We're speculating. But Mark Carney, this is another a letter that was sent off by a Conservative MP saying that Mark Carney must be investigated for his conflicts of interest. We just said that. He needs to disclose. This is Michael Barrett, Conservative candidate for Leeds, Greenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, wrote a letter saying that he wants Mark Carney announced his intention to spend $1 billion on heat pumps. Brookfield Infrastructure is a flagship listed infrastructure company for Brookfield, and it says it actually sells heat pumps. There you go. And a whole
Yeah,
bunch
well,
of
I mean, this is quite an obvious one, isn't it? I would imagine an obvious. It raises doubts, doesn't it? It raises suspicions.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we'll talk about more of this stuff in the end here. And then this election interference stuff, there's a story out here from Global saying Friends of India ruling party helped finance Poilievre's leadership campaign. So, we talk about this China and India thing, and, there's accusations that China's helping the Liberals, and there's accusations that India is helping the Conservatives.
Yeah, but I mean, the situation it's an odd one because I think we can understand why India would it's not so much that they would back the Conservatives, but why they would try and get the Liberals removed, because they, particularly Modi and his party, they have quite a long history of a beef with the Liberals. They don't like them. So at least I'm not making any sort of statement here about right or wrong or whatever, but I'm talking about motivation. We can see why. The motivation is obvious. The Indian government, for various reasons, actively despises the Liberal Party, had a really terrible relationship with Justin Trudeau, and it was kind of, the hostility was reciprocated. So it makes sense. Okay, so they would want the other party to win. But when it comes to the Chinese support, nobody's ever really explained. It's not obvious. And Mark Carney was asked this question. He was asked this question, I think, yesterday. Why did the Chinese Communist Party promote a campaign on Chinese social media to sort of boost your reputation in Canada, effectively back you in this election? Why does the Chinese Communist Party want the Liberal Party to win this election? And that isn't obvious to me. And I don't know. I mean, maybe a listener can elucidate, because I don't really know.
Yeah, we got this clip here from Mark Carney talking about modular housing, and this is after Brookfield bought a massive modular home company here for about $5 billion in 2021. Let's play this clip.
Prefabricated and modular housing are the future. They can drive down time to completion by up to 50%. They can reduce costs by up to 20%, emissions by over 20% compared to traditional construction methods. And Canada should be the world leader in this new industry. And as you can see here, we're already well positioned to do so. And that's why my government will provide $25 billion, I'll repeat, $25 billion in financing to scale the industry up massively, to create high-paying jobs, high-skilled jobs up and down the supply chain in prefabricated and modular housing factories like this one, in innovative housing research, such as at the UBC Smart Structures, which I visited just in February, and in our world-class forestry industry. Our plan will revitalize our construction sector, where in recent years, labor productivity has been stagnant and costs have risen over 50%. Prefabricated and modular housing will catalyze a productivity boom, while creating tens of thousands of not just jobs, but tens of thousands of new high-paying careers in the skilled trades.
Let me repeat that for you. $25 billion in financing, cheap money for companies that are building modular homes. Brookfield bought a massive modular home company.
It's a Brookfield bonanza.
Yes, it is. Things are working up. Things are looking up for Brookfield. How's that? Things are looking up for Brookfield. And heat pumps and and climate, all kinds of stuff, and energy, everything. Things are looking. It's looking like sunshine and roses for Brookfield Asset Management. Plus, they don't pay taxes, so it's really a good place to be right now. I think we should look at investing in Brookfield Asset Management.
Well, on that subject, before you get worried about possible conflicts of interest with Mark Carney having, investments in Brookfield, fear not, because that's all in a blind trust now, and a blind trust makes it perfectly legit and fine.
So if you know what you put into a blind trust, how blind is it? Is that a joke or what is that?
Well, who knows? It's blind. That's all we need to know is it's blind. Just like Lady Justice, it is blind.
It's 3 blind mice. I think that's what they're hoping for, that the Canadians are blind as well, and they can't add or use their common sense to say, wow, things are looking up for Brookfield Asset Management. That's what the slogan should be on the front of that sign. Things are looking up for Brookfield Asset Management. There you go.
And it's been a long struggle for them. They've earned this. They deserve a break, don't they?
Well, hey, and they're also, for the shareholders, they're not paying tax, so that's awesome as well. So that's better for shareholders. You can't look at it as they're cheating on their taxes in Canada. You should look at it as shareholders. What a bonanza on $5 billion in savings in taxes.
Finally a good deal for Brookfield Asset Management after all these years.
Yeah. And they can spend some of that money for PR to get rid of all those negative stories about all their violations throughout the world.
Yeah, and sue people that insult them, such as yourself.
I'm not saying it's a great investment.
Yeah, it's great. Please don't sue us, Brookfield. We love you. Instead, you can invest, and then we'll be your biggest fan.
There you go. And then this is a clip here from a Conservative candidate on her signs in Mark Carney's Mark Carney's riding. We're going to play this clip for you.
Hello, Nepean. It's Barbara Ball, your Conservative candidate. In a democracy, the right to free speech is sacred. It's common knowledge that the Barbara Ball team is very organized. Our signs were up very early in the campaign. Many of our wooden stakes are marked with blue tops and NCA for Nepean Conservative Association written on them. Now, we are discovering that hundreds of our signs are missing. We have found many of our signs in the garbage. We have also discovered empty holes and, in other instances, wooden stakes with blue tips and NCA written on them, bearing my opponent's red sign. When people resort to criminal behavior, they are undermining the democratic process itself. This is unacceptable. Our community deserves better. We must stand united against such actions, which tarnish the democratic ideals that we hold dear.
Well, I don't know what you say to that other than, well, that's bold of the Liberal person putting up the signs using the Conservative candidate's sticks. And you could also say, well, they're great at recycling. They've taken down signs and then re-put up new signs. That is beyond bold. And I guess that is, in some people's minds, I guess that is, like win at all costs and everything is justified.
Yeah, we're used to that sort of attitude nowadays, aren't we? But I mean, it does happen. We should sort of say, shouldn't we? It does happen in the other direction as well. You sometimes see Liberal NDP signs and all that vandalized. It seems to just be like,
it's
just
the
like
reuse.
a feature of elections nowadays, isn't it? It's so terrible, but it is.
Maybe the Carney Liberals there didn't have access to any of the sticks, so they just had to go and find out a way to get some.
I mean, I will say, because I see these signs all over the place, Carney and Ball. I would say I don't really understand the logic here because they are absolutely everywhere. There are so many. for both of these candidates. So like I don't know what advantage they hope to be getting there, because it's not like, I mean, you can swap a few around, but then there's still like 1,000 Barbara Ball signs down the main highways and the main streets in that riding. I see them constantly, see them every single day. There's like, and there's gigantic Mark Carney ones. I would say that the Carney team they've gone for size. There's some absolutely enormous Mark Carney signs, but yeah, I don't know. It's all just a bit sad, isn't it? I don't think there's any. I don't really understand why people do this sort of thing.
One of our viewers jumping in on the sarcasm there, and it's part of Mark Carney's plan to save trees by reusing those posts. Why buy posts when you can just take the posts? And again, we probably go back to that green thing and just wonder where all this screaming is. Because there is one party screaming that you need to not consider the other two parties at all and consolidate your votes for one party. And to the detriment of poor Jagmeet Singh. He's even having to get OnlyFans girls to help him out on his campaigns.
Yeah, he's been caught in the middle a little bit there, hasn't he?
So here come the endorsements. Mark Carney used Mike Myers, a former Canadian, I guess, and now U.S. citizen that lives in the United States, came out and plugging him with his elbows up campaign. And here's a famous Albertan that was at the event here in Edmonton here. Brent Kissel.
I've got a message for people.
Edmonton and Canada, it's very important to understand the human being that Pierre is. The guy who's become my friend and somebody who truly believes in the future of Canada and understands that the past 10 years we've had have not been great. But Pierre is here with all of his colleagues and with all of his heart to make a significant change for a brighter future, something that each and every one of us truly want, not just for us, but for our kids and our grandkids, and Pierre is the guy to do it.
There you go. Look for the endorsements to start coming fast and furious from both sides. I guess Jagmeet Singh had his own endorsement there. It didn't work out very well with that OnlyFans girl, though.
Yeah, that was in Edmonton, I think, that wasn't it? That was the Calgary one. Yeah, that was that was interesting. He got a huge cheer, didn't he? That chap there. But in general, the atmosphere and that, I think somebody right now will be writing a PhD about that, I'm sure, about Pierre Poilievre's rallies, because they are kind of like nothing that I've seen in Canada anyway.
I'm going to say that look for the Liberals to have a massive, they're going to pull from Kamala Harris's playbook and see if they can get a Beyonce to draw, because that's what she did. She used like Beyonce saying that there was going to be a concert. They actually misled people in saying that Beyonce is going to perform, which she never did. And that actually irritated the attendees even worse, so they got actually angry because it's very hot, and Beyonce said a few words, but she did not perform. They thought they were getting a free concert.
That's sad, isn't it? They didn't appreciate Beyonce's political speech. They didn't appreciate her insight into politics.
And then Oprah Winfrey came out as well, and then her company charged $2 million for her endorsement. $2 million. Maybe like some of these parties have some cash to throw around as well for endorsements. We're willing to endorse for $2 million.
Who is Canada's Oprah would be my immediate question.
Who is Canada's Oprah? I don't know if we have.
Do we have one?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on to markets, though. We're going to try and finish up here in a couple minutes here because we got a 10 o'clock show coming here. Gold. Gold is the only thing that's rocking up the charts. Gold, definitely the safe haven asset. Where's gold at this current moment? Gold. You know what I mean? Gold up huge today, $110. Gold up $110 US today, banging on the door of 3,100. Crazy. I mean, gold is definitely up $130 Canadian, so that means the Canadian dollar is dropping. So gold in Canadian dollars, $43.87. Who would have thought? I was buying this stuff at $200 an ounce way back in the day, right? So there you go, gold. Canada, again, number one in the G7 for having zero gold in its central reserves. Mark Carney was a Bank of Canada governor, and you can thank him for that as well. 0 gold reserves for Canada. 0.
We've got some underneath the snow, but not in the vaults.
We're not allowed to get that out, though. We're keeping that there.
It's going to stay there.
Keep it in the ground. Bitcoin. Bitcoin suffering as well. Trying to fill that gap. You know, I'd say Bitcoin long-term has lots in its sales still. Bitcoin definitely still suffering, though. 78,000 hanging in there, though. Hanging in there. And the Canadian dollar definitely, you know, there you go. Just hanging
Directionless.
Directionless at best, right? Looking for, I mean, the election is going to say a lot. Canada's strength is resources. If we get somebody that's positive for resources, we're going to see a huge pop in that. If we don't, we won't. We'll get a lot of easy money policies. U.S. retail groups, and these are the ones that are going to hurt because they offshore everything, right? Most of the stuff that, you know, all the big brands make their stuff in China, Taiwan, Thailand, all those places, right? And these tariffs are definitely not great for apparel brands.
It's also the case that the Americans are like the number one consumer in the world. And obviously this economy that we have is like, which involves China, Vietnam, and all the rest of it. It's on a massive scale because of America. So if America stops buying it, then the scale diminishes, and you know, with smaller scale, that means higher prices, doesn't it? So this will affect us in numerous ways.
Yeah, and let's move on to, we always try to have you learn something when you watch our show as well. We're trying to be a little different and have you learn something, and we offer a lot of sarcasm, especially Ian. He's great with the sarcasm. We got a little AI tech clip here to play for you. This is pretty cool, actually. There you go, that's good. That's actually the Democratic. That's actually the Democratic Party in the United States eating itself.
It looked like a kabuki mask or something, like old Japanese theater.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty creepy, and that's what's going on in the Democratic Party actually right now in the United States. They're eating themselves. They're just fighting with each other and blaming each other, and it's all coming out now on the Joe Biden thing. Like, you know, like some of the anchors and that saying, oh, they didn't know, and I don't know. Anyway, that's what it looks like when you eat yourself. OpenAI makes ChatGPT Plus free for students, both in Canada and the United States. Look at Sam Altman, considering Canada in there. Look at Sam Altman, hey? Sam Altman, the head of ChatGPT, and you and I both use ChatGPT quite often, actually.
Yeah, it's going to help students cheat on essays.
The European Union announces a $20 billion plan for AI gigafactories. There you go. The European Union getting 20 billion euros, actually. And they want to close the competitive gap with the US and China in AI innovation. They finally realized that maybe isn't all about regulation. They actually have to create something to regulate it. Okay?
Yeah, there's an order to these things.
Yeah, first you create it, then you can regulate it. But they want to regulate all the time. And Dr. Oz advocates for AI integration in healthcare at the Medicare town hall. So Dr. Oz looking to use AI. AI is making leaps and bounds in the healthcare industry. That's awesome with AI. EV, there's supposedly an EV tour coming to Kelowna here, just to say that April 3rd and 20th, I think you're supposed to be allowed to test drive these things for free. I was sent an invite for that. And then in the United States, since Donald Trump has taken office, there a significant number of EV and battery factory projects are canceled because there is no more EV mandate in the United States. And that, again, is very dangerous for the auto sector in Canada if they don't dump the EV mandate, which that's what a reporter needs to ask. That's the question for the auto sector. Will the Liberal government dump the EV mandate? And I don't think the answer is yes. Tesla, a little bit here on Tesla. You got to feed your car. And this is just a little demonstration that you actually, because there's no motor, you can actually put groceries in the front. They call it a frunk. So there's a frunk, a trunk, and an underneath trunk. There's so much storage in there because there's no motor, no transmission, a lot of no nothings in there. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot less stuff going on. And we're just wrapping this up here. And we're into the best part of the show, the memes. And we don't have very many today, but we have a couple that are basically hilarious. This one here is a lot of people really freaked out about the stock market, and Donald Trump announces huge blowout sale on stocks. If you don't see the humor in that, I don't know, right? So it could well be, and I'm going to do a story on this. I said I'm going to put it on my LinkedIn. And is this the opportunity of a lifetime? Because if the underlying fundamentals of a stock hasn't changed, and they've been crushed with these tariff wars, is this not a buying opportunity, or is this the end of the world as you know it? There you go.
Very hard. That's, people are going to be making the bet of a lifetime, aren't they, right now? It's really hard to say. Without China and without Vietnam and all the rest of it, it's like very hard to imagine how we go back to having these high value companies, but who knows?
In volatility, there's tons of transfer of wealth. They are opportunities for these large companies for sure. And then the last one here, this is one to help you, to save time. They'll now warn you when a film doesn't have tons of nudity, swearing, and violence. So there you go. So, you know what I mean?
That's certainly a sign of the times, yeah.
There you go. That's our show for today. We appreciate you watching along with us, and we hope that you share and come back every day. We have some regulars all the time. There you go. And Brett, you're bang on there. People sell gold because they have margin requirements and they have liquidity crises as the stock market goes to hell. Now everything gets sold, right? We thank you for watching, Brett and everybody else that's on there, Glenn, all the regulars, Honey and me, and we do thank you, and we hope you share it so we get a larger audience, and we keep saying it. We don't get any funding, so we can say whatever we want. So far, so good, right?
It's a risky game, though.
It's a risky game, yeah. So they figured out another way. Bill C-18 took away our audience of 200,000 on Facebook and Instagram. So I imagine they'll come up with some more bills to make sure that we don't have a YouTube and stuff like that too. So there you go. We do thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.